You were taught that hard work leads to success, that if you just work longer, try harder, and push more, you'll make it. That advice has ruined more lives than failure ever did. Millions of people work harder than you, and will never escape mediocrity. Why? Because hard work without direction is nothing more than exhaustion. The truth is, success does not reward effort. It rewards alignment. In the next 2 minutes you will learn why some people seem to rise effortlessly, while others struggle their entire lives doing everything right. Yeah. This is not motivation. This is understanding. And understanding changes everything. Section 1. The invisible architecture of circumstances. Consider for a moment the physical environment in which you currently find yourself, the circumstances of your daily routine, and the general trajectory of your life. It is the most natural thing in the world to look upon these external conditions and assume they are the solid, immovable facts of your existence. We are conditioned from a very young age to believe that reality is something that happens to us. We look at our financial standing, our professional achievements, the quality of our relationships, and the overall atmosphere of our days, and we conclude that these things are the causes of our happiness or our discontent. This is the great illusion of the human experience. It is an illusion that traps the vast majority of humanity in a perpetual cycle of reaction, frustration, and quiet desperation. The profound truth, the singular principle upon which all personal mastery is built, is the exact reverse of this common assumption. Your external reality is not a cause. It is an effect. The physical world you navigate each day is merely the trailing indicator of a far more powerful, entirely invisible world. That invisible world is the realm of your own thought. To understand how your thoughts shape your reality, you must first recognize that we live in a universe governed by absolute, immutable laws. You do not question the law of gravity. You know that if you step off the roof of a building, you will fall, regardless of whether you are a good person or a bad person, regardless of your intentions, and regardless of your ignorance of the law. Gravity is entirely neutral and entirely exact. The mental world is governed by laws just as precise and just as unforgiving as the laws of the physical universe. The most fundamental of these is the law of cause and effect. Ralph Waldo Emerson called it the law of laws. Simply stated, for every effect in your life, there is a specific cause. Nothing happens by chance. Luck is merely a word we use to describe an effect for which we have not yet identified the cause. In the architecture of your life, thought is the initial cause, and your physical reality is the ultimate effect. Every man-made object you can see around you, the chair you sit in, the building that shelters you, the vehicle that transports you, began as a solitary, invisible thought in the mind of a single human being. It could not exist in the physical world until it first existed in the mental world. The same exact mechanism applies to the circumstances of your life. The position you hold in society, the level of success you currently enjoy, and the limitations you presently face are the direct, unavoidable harvest of the thoughts you have habitually entertained in your mind. Your mind is a magnificent, profoundly obedient instrument. It is much like a vast, fertile tract of land. The earth does not care what you plant in it. It is entirely indifferent to the seed. If you plant a seed of corn, the earth will yield corn. If you plant the seed of a poisonous weed, the earth will yield poison with the exact same abundance and efficiency. The soil simply returns what is planted. Your mind operates on this exact same principle. It does not care what you plant. It does not judge whether your thoughts are positive or negative, productive or destructive, true or false. It simply accepts whatever thoughts you hold in your conscious awareness and begins the silent, relentless work of translating those thoughts into their physical equivalents. If you plant thoughts of abundance, clarity, and purpose, your mind will organize your behavior and your perception to bring those conditions into your reality. If you plant thoughts of fear, scarcity, and limitation, your mind will just as diligently construct a reality that perfectly matches those expectations. Most people, lacking an awareness of this law, operate in a state of continuous reaction. They look at a negative circumstance in their life, perhaps a lack of money or a stalled career, and they allow that external circumstance to dictate their internal thought process. They think about their lack. They dwell on their limitations. They worry about their future. By doing so, they are planting more seeds of lack, limitation, and worry into the fertile soil of their minds. The mind accepts these seeds and produces more circumstances of lack, limitation, and worry. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy of the most tragic kind. They are caught in a loop, believing that their thoughts are justified by their reality, completely unaware that their reality is being manufactured by their thought. To break this cycle, you must accept a level of personal responsibility that many find uncomfortable, but which is ultimately the most liberating realization a human being can achieve. You must accept that you are exactly where you are right now because of your prior thinking. You are the architect of your present circumstance. No one else has done this to you. The economy has not done this to you. Your upbringing has not done this to you. These external factors may act as temporary headwinds or tailwinds, but the captain of the ship is the dominant thought held in your own mind. Accepting this responsibility means recognizing that your mind is the only thing in the universe over which you have absolute, unquestionable control. You cannot control the weather, you cannot control the actions of other people, and you cannot control the shifting tides of the global marketplace. But you can control what you choose to think about. This brings us to the highest form of human discipline, the ability to think thoughts that are entirely independent of your current environment. If you are surrounded by poverty, it is easy to think thoughts of poverty. If you are surrounded by failure, it is easy to think thoughts of failure. That requires no effort whatsoever. But to look at a circumstance of limitation and consciously choose to hold a thought of boundless opportunity, that requires discipline. That requires volition. That is the conscious act of planting a new seed in the face of a bitter harvest. When you learn to separate your internal thought process from your external environment, you cease to be a victim of circumstance, and you become the master of it. How precisely does this translation from invisible thought to visible reality occur? It is not magic. It is not a mystical process whereby things simply materialize out of thin air. It is a deeply logical cause and effect progression. Your thoughts dictate your perceptions. At any given moment, there are millions of bits of information surrounding you. Opportunities, solutions, and pathways exist in your immediate environment right now. However, your brain acts as a filtering mechanism. It will only allow you to consciously notice the information that aligns with your dominant thoughts. If your dominant thought is that the world is a hostile place devoid of opportunity, your mind will filter out every piece of evidence to the contrary. You could walk right past the greatest opportunity of your life and never see it, because your mind was not programmed to recognize it. Conversely, if you hold a dominant thought of success and possibility, your mind becomes highly attuned to anything that can help you achieve that success. You begin to notice resources, make connections, and see solutions that were always there but previously invisible to you. Furthermore, your thoughts dictate your emotions, and your emotions dictate your actions. A person who constantly thinks about their own inadequacy will feel a sense of doubt and hesitation. Those emotions will naturally lead to timid, ineffective actions or perhaps no action at all. The result of timid action is inevitably a mediocre reality. This mediocre reality then reinforces the initial thought of inadequacy. On the other hand, a person who deliberately cultivates thoughts of confidence, capability, and clear purpose will generate feelings of enthusiasm and resolve. These emotions drive decisive, consistent, and bold actions. Decisive action produces favorable results, which in turn reinforces the thoughts of confidence. Therefore, reality is not shaped by a single fleeting thought. We all have moments of doubt, just as we all have moments of grand inspiration. A passing thought is like a drop of water on a stone. It leaves no mark. Reality is shaped by your habitual thinking. It is the thought that is repeated, the thought that is warmed by emotion, the thought that becomes the default setting of your mind, which possesses the power to alter your life. To understand that your thoughts shape your reality is to understand that you are standing at the control panel of your own destiny. The physical world is merely the echo of the mental world. If you do not like the echo, it is utterly futile to shout at the sound. You must change the original voice. You must change the cause. You must take deliberate, conscious ownership of the mental atmosphere in which you live. This is the groundwork. This is the unyielding foundation upon which all enduring success, peace of mind, and personal fulfillment are built. Before you can change your income, before you can improve your health, before you can elevate your station in life, you must first accept the silent, invisible forge, where all these things are truly manufactured. You must recognize that the mind is the master weaver, both of the inner garment of character and the outer garment of circumstance. Section 2. The Anvil of Conscious Volition. If we accept that the mind is the master weaver, we must then confront the most demanding challenge of human existence, taking deliberate control of the loom. The principle that your thoughts shape your reality is elegant in its simplicity, yet it is notoriously difficult in its application. Why? If the law of cause and effect is absolute, and if the rewards of constructive thinking are so abundant, why do so few individuals manage to harness this power effectively? The answer lies in the formidable momentum of our own past. We are, by our very nature, creatures of profound habit. Just as we form physical habits to navigate our daily routines without conscious effort, we form mental habits to navigate the complexities of life. Over the years, through repeated exposure to our environment, the opinions of others, and our own unexamined reactions, we have carved deep neurological grooves into our minds. These grooves dictate our default responses to the world. When a person attempts to change their life by changing their thinking, they are not starting with a blank slate. They are stepping onto a silent battleground where the entrenched forces of their old habits are fiercely resistant to change. This is the primary internal obstacle. Mental inertia is a powerful, unyielding force. An object in motion tends to stay in motion, and a mind accustomed to worry, doubt, and limitation will naturally tend to continue producing thoughts of worry, doubt, and limitation. It is here that we must draw a vital distinction between true thinking and mere mental activity. The great minds of history have long observed that many people believe they are thinking when they are merely rearranging their prejudices. For the vast majority of humanity, what passes for thought is simply a reflex. It is the automatic playback of an old recording. A circumstance occurs, the mental button is pushed, and the habitual response plays out. There is no conscious volition involved. It is entirely mechanical. True thinking, by contrast, is a deliberate, creative act. It requires the conscious application of will. It is the ability to observe a circumstance, pause, and intentionally choose a response that aligns with your ultimate purpose, rather than defaulting to the knee-jerk reaction of your past conditioning. This level of mental discipline is rare, because it requires immense effort. It is far easier to surrender to the familiar comfort of old anxieties than it is to forge a new, unfamiliar path of confident expectation. Furthermore, this internal struggle is compounded by the external mental atmosphere in which we all live. We are surrounded by a society that largely operates on the frequencies of fear, scarcity, and crisis. The collective consciousness is heavily weighted toward the negative. If you do not actively guard your mind, you will passively absorb the dominant attitudes of your environment. Just as a sponge absorbs muddy water, you will find yourself adopting the cynicism, the complaints, and the limitations of the crowd, simply by virtue of proximity. To elevate your reality, you must become a vigilant gatekeeper of your own mind. You must stand watch at the door of your consciousness and ruthlessly evaluate every idea, every suggestion, and every belief that seeks entry. You must ask yourself, does this thought serve my purpose? Does it build me up, or does it tear me down? Is it a seed I want to see bear fruit in the physical garden of my life? If the answer is no, you must boldly deny it entry. But how does one deny entry to a persistent negative thought? The human mind abhors a vacuum. You cannot simply will yourself to stop thinking about something. If you are instructed not to think about a specific object, the image of that very object immediately leaps into your mind. The harder you try to suppress a thought, the more energy you give it, and the stronger it becomes. The secret to overcoming negative mental habits is not suppression, but substitution. The conscious mind can only hold one dominant thought at a given moment. Therefore, the only effective way to eliminate a destructive thought is to immediately and deliberately replace it with a constructive one. When the familiar voice of doubt whispers that you are not capable, you do not argue with the voice. Arguing validates its presence. Instead, you instantly pivot your attention to a thought of past success, or a clear, vivid mental picture of your desired outcome. You flood your mind with the opposite frequency. By consistently applying this law of substitution, you gradually starve the old negative habits of the attention they need to survive, while simultaneously watering the new, positive seeds you wish to grow. This process of substitution is the absolute essence of mental discipline. It is the heavy lifting of personal development. In the beginning, it will feel clumsy and exhausting. You may find yourself having to replace the same negative thought 100 times in a single day. The old grooves are deep, and the mind naturally wants to slide back into them. But with persistent, unrelenting practice, a profound shift begins to occur. The new thoughts begin to carve their own grooves. The positive expectations gradually become the path of least resistance. What once required intense conscious effort becomes your new default setting. As you engage in this daily discipline, you must arm yourself with an understanding of the time delay inherent in the physical universe. The mental world is fluid and instantaneous. You can change your thought in a microsecond. The physical world, however, is dense and moves at a slower, more deliberate pace. There is always a gestation period between the moment a seed is planted in the earth and the moment the green shoot breaks through the soil. During this gestation period, it will often appear as though nothing is happening. You will be thinking new thoughts, practicing new discipline, and maintaining a positive expectation, yet your external reality may remain largely unchanged. Your resources may still be low, your circumstances may still be challenging, and the evidence of your senses will try to convince you that your new way of thinking is a futile exercise. This is the critical juncture. This is the anvil upon which true character is forged. Most people fail right here. They look at the lack of immediate physical evidence. They conclude that the law does not work, and they revert to their old habitual patterns of thought. They dig up the seed to see if it is growing, and in doing so, they kill it. You must understand that the physical evidence is always the last thing to change. The lack of immediate results does not mean the law is failing. It means the law is in the process of organizing the unseen circumstances, people, and events necessary to bring your thought into physical manifestation. The roots are growing deep beneath the surface, hidden from view, but intensely active. Your task during this interval is to maintain the integrity of your thought regardless of external appearances. You must learn to trust the invisible architecture of the universe more than you trust the temporary conditions of your present moment. You must hold your mental picture with unwavering faith, knowing that the physical equivalent is already moving toward you with the exactness of a mathematical equation. This requires a profound shift in how you use your mental faculties. Instead of using your imagination to project worst-case scenarios and future anxieties, which is how the majority of people use it, you must train your imagination to continually paint the masterpiece of your desired life. You must live in the mental reality of your goal before it becomes a physical fact. You must feel the gratitude, the confidence, and the peace of mind that belong to the person you are becoming, right now, in this very moment. When you master this discipline, when you can hold a thought of abundance in the midst of temporary lack, when you can maintain a posture of calm certainty in the face of temporary confusion, you have conquered the only obstacle that ever truly stood in your way. You have conquered yourself. You have transformed the mind from a chaotic master into a brilliant, obedient servant. And in doing so, you clear the path for the inevitable transformation of your outer world. Section 3. The impersonal engine of destiny. To understand the profound nature of this obedient servant, your own mind, you must first strip away the most pervasive illusion that plagues mankind. This is the deeply ingrained belief that circumstances make the man. We are taught from an early age to look at our environment, our bank accounts, our relationships, and our standing in the world. And we deduce that these external factors are the absolute causes of our internal state. We believe we are unhappy because we are poor, or we are fearful because the world is dangerous. But the immutable truth of your existence is exactly the reverse. Circumstance does not make you. It reveals you to yourself. The outer world is merely a delayed three-dimensional echo of your inner world. When you begin to take command of your mental faculties, you must reckon with the internal machinery that processes your thoughts. The human mind operates in two distinct yet inextricably linked capacities. There is the conscious mind, which we have discussed as the watchman at the gate, the faculty of volition, intellect, and choice. And then there is the subconscious mind, the vast, silent engine of destiny. The subconscious mind is the builder of your reality, but it is entirely impersonal. It possesses no ability to reject an idea, nor does it have an independent sense of logic or morality. It does not argue with you, and it does not protect you from your own destructive commands. It operates with the cold, precise efficiency of a fertile plot of earth. The earth does not care whether you plant seeds of nourishing wheat or seeds of deadly nightshade. It will return exactly what is planted, with equal vigor and without judgment. Therein lies the greatest internal obstacle for the individual attempting to forge a new reality. We often plant a seed of desire with our conscious mind, a fleeting thought of prosperity, health, or harmony. Intellectual concepts, the subconscious mind is activated and impressed solely by thoughts that are fused with emotion. Emotion is the catalyst. It is the fire that welds the thought to the machinery of manifestation. Why is it that a person can consciously desire success, yet continually produce failure? It is because their thoughts of success are weak, occasional, and purely intellectual, while their underlying fears of failure are constant and deeply emotionalized. Fear, worry, and anxiety are highly charged emotional states. When you harbor a thought of doubt and you feel the visceral dread associated with it, You are issuing a powerful, undeniable command to your subconscious mind. You are handing the builder a blueprint drawn in the ink of terror, and the builder, being entirely impersonal, immediately sets to work constructing the exact circumstance you fear. Therefore, the mental discipline required of you goes far beyond merely repeating positive phrases or visualizing a goal for a few minutes a day. You must learn to generate the corresponding emotion of your desired outcome long before the outcome exists in the physical world. You must cultivate the feeling of the wish fulfilled. If you seek financial independence, it is not enough to simply think about money. You must learn to generate the feeling of security, abundance, and freedom right now, within your present circumstances. If you seek health, you must locate the feeling of vitality within yourself, even if the physical body is currently in distress. This is a supreme act of will. It is the conscious, deliberate marrying of thought and feeling, and it is the only way to effectively reprogram the silent engine of your subconscious. As you undertake this profound internal work, you will inevitably encounter the fierce friction of your old identity. This is a subtle and highly deceptive internal obstacle. For years you have defined yourself by your limitations. You have built a sense of self around your struggles, your past failures, and your familiar anxieties. When you begin to consistently hold thoughts of a higher nature, when you begin to feel the emotions of a reality that has not yet materialized, a part of you will rebel. Your own mind will try to convince you that you are a fraud. It will whisper that you are merely playing make-believe, that you are disconnected from reality, and that you should return to the real world of your previous limitation. The discomfort of holding a new self-image can be staggering. It feels unnatural, clumsy, and entirely foreign. You must understand that this internal resistance is not a sign that you are failing. It is the definitive proof that you are succeeding. It is the friction of the old self giving way to the new. Just as a physical muscle must experience the micro-tears of resistance to grow stronger, your mental faculties must push against the heavy gravity of your old identity to expand. You must come to expect this discomfort. You must welcome it as the necessary growing pain of your own evolution. When the feeling of being an imposter arises, you must calmly recognize it as nothing more than the dying gasp of a habit that no longer serves you. You do not fight it. You simply withdraw your attention from it and place it back upon your chosen destination. To navigate this crucible of conscious command, you must abandon the amateur's reliance on sporadic bursts of enthusiasm. Transformation is not achieved through a weekend of positive thinking, followed by a week of habitual worry. The subconscious mind responds to the dominant, prevailing current of your thoughts. It is the steady, unyielding pressure of your mental focus that reshapes your world. You must become a master of consistency. Imagine the captain of an ocean liner navigating across a vast and unpredictable sea. He does not set his course for 1 hour, only to let the ship drift aimlessly for the next 10. He sets the heading and he maintains it through calm waters and through violent storms. The wind may push the vessel off course, the currents may drag at its hull, but the captain continually corrects the rudder, bringing the ship back to its true heading. Your conscious mind is the rudder of your destiny. The temporary circumstances of your life, the opinions of others, the unexpected challenges, and the sudden flashes of old fears are the winds and currents seeking to push you off your chosen course. Your discipline lies in the constant, gentle, and unwavering correction of your mental rudder. When you find your mind drifting into the treacherous waters of doubt or self-pity, you do not panic and you do not condemn yourself. You simply take hold of the rudder and steer your thoughts back to your clear, emotionalized picture of success. You must reach a point where your internal world is more real to you than your external world. The average person walks through life allowing their environment to dictate their mood and their thoughts. If the day is sunny and people are kind, they are happy. If the day is gloomy and they face an obstacle, they are miserable. They are entirely reactive, blown about like a leaf in the autumn wind. Their inner life is nothing more than a chaotic reflection of outer events. The master of thought operates in the exact opposite manner. He dictates his internal environment, and he requires the external world to eventually conform to it. He understands that the physical world is malleable, but it only bends to the will of a mind that is steadfast and resolute. If he faces a temporary defeat, he does not allow that defeat to penetrate his consciousness and become his identity. He views it merely as feedback, a temporary condition in the physical world that has absolutely no bearing on the ultimate reality he is constructing in his mind. This is the absolute zenith of personal responsibility. It is a sobering, yet immensely liberating realization that there is no one to blame, no circumstance to curse, and no external force holding you back. You are the sole architect of your experience. Every moment of every day, you are either actively building your desired reality through deliberate emotionalized thought, or you are passively allowing your old habits to build a reality you do not want. The power is entirely in your hands. It is not locked away in a distant future, nor is it dependent upon a change in your external circumstances. It is available to you right now in this precise fraction of a second, activated by the very next thought you choose to entertain. Section 4. The sovereign command of consciousness. To accept this profound truth, that your power is activated by the very next thought you choose to entertain, it is to step into the sovereign command of your consciousness. It is the threshold between living as a victim of circumstance and living as the deliberate architect of your destiny. Yet, as you take up this mantle of responsibility, you must prepare yourself for the final and most demanding test of your mental discipline. The illusion of time and the testimony of your physical senses. The physical universe is a dense, heavy medium. It is bound by the laws of time and space. Thought, on the other hand, is instantaneous. It transcends physical limitations, moving with the speed of light, unencumbered by friction or gravity. When you change your internal world, when you impress a new, highly emotionalized blueprint of prosperity, health, or peace upon your subconscious mind, the physical world cannot alter itself in that exact fraction of a second. The material world requires time to gather the resources, shift the circumstances, and arrange the intricate web of events necessary to reflect your new mental state. This interval, this delay between the planting of the seed and the breaking of the soil, is the grand crucible of human endeavor. It is here in the waiting that the weak abandon their post and the strong forge their legacies. The average individual, having held a positive and constructive thought for a few days or weeks, will look around at their physical environment and see no immediate change. They will look at their bank account, their physical condition, or their personal relationships, and they will observe the exact same limitations that existed before they began their mental work. At this point, they make a fatal error. They allow the evidence of their senses to override the conviction of their mind. They conclude that the law does not work, that their efforts are futile, and they immediately revert to their old familiar patterns of worry and doubt. In doing so, they dig up the seed just as it was beginning to germinate in the dark, silent depths of the subconscious. To master your reality, you must become completely unimpressed by your present circumstances. You must understand that what you see, hear, and touch in your immediate environment is nothing more than the materialized echo of your past thinking. Your current physical reality is a historical document. It is a receipt for the thoughts you held months or years ago. You would never stare at an old receipt to determine your future purchasing power. Yet this is precisely what you do when you allow your current limitations to dictate your present thoughts. You must learn to suspend the reports of your physical senses. When your eyes show you lack, your mind must remain steadfastly focused on abundance. When your body feels fatigue, your mind must remain anchored in the feeling of vitality. You must reach a level of mental supremacy where your internal vision is more authoritative, more undeniable, and more real to you than the solid objects in the room around you. This is not delusion. This is the highest form of understanding. It is the recognition that the invisible world of thought is the cause, and the visible world of matter is merely the effect. As you maintain this unwavering internal posture, an extraordinary phenomenon begins to occur. You will find that the concept of action takes on an entirely new dimension. Many people misunderstand the nature of thought, assuming that if they simply sit in a room and visualize, the world will magically drop their desires into their lap. They fail to understand that physical action is the necessary bridge between the invisible and the visible. However, the nature of that action changes completely when it is directed by a programmed subconscious mind. When a person is trapped in fear and doubt, their actions are frantic, forced, and chaotic. They are constantly striving, manipulating, and pushing against the grain of life, trying to force the external world to yield to their desires. They are rowing a boat with the anchor dropped, expending massive amounts of energy for very little progress. Conversely, when your subconscious mind is deeply impressed with the clear, emotionalized picture of your goal, it begins to guide your physical actions with an unerring, almost uncanny precision. You will find yourself drawn to certain books, certain conversations, and certain opportunities. You will experience sudden flashes of intuition, a quiet, undeniable urge to make a phone call, take a different route, or pursue a new endeavor. This is your subconscious mind working in harmony with the broader machinery of the universe, moving the physical pieces of your life into alignment with your mental blueprint. Your actions become inspired, effortless. You are no longer forcing the world to bend. You are moving in perfect rhythm with the unfolding of your own commanded reality. You will find yourself doing the right thing at the exact right moment without the debilitating friction of doubt. When you begin to operate in this manner, the uninitiated observers around you will try to explain away your results. They will look at your sudden progress, your peace of mind, and your expanding prosperity, and they will attribute it to luck, to privilege, or to a favorable turn of the economy. They do not see the invisible architecture of your mind. They do not witness the silent, disciplined hours you spent correcting your mental rudder, refusing to indulge in fear and holding fast to your vision when the physical evidence suggested failure. They mistake the inevitable harvest of a disciplined mind for an accident of the weather. But you will know the truth. You will know that there are no accidents in a universe governed by immutable law. You will understand that what the masses call fate is merely the mathematical certainty of applied mental cause and effect. Let us draw these principles into a unified, unassailable philosophy of living. First, you must recognize your conscious mind as the watchman at the gate. It is your ultimate faculty of choice. You, and you alone, decide which thoughts are granted entry into the sanctuary of your mind. Second, you must understand the impersonal, fertile nature of your subconscious. It is the builder, the silent engine that accepts whatever you plant and works tirelessly to reproduce it in your physical environment. Third, you must remember the catalyst of emotion. Cold, intellectual wishes produce nothing. It is the thought fused with the deep visceral feeling of the wish fulfilled that commands the subconscious machinery. Fourth, you must embrace the discipline of consistency. A fleeting moment of positive expectation cannot overcome a lifetime of habitual anxiety. You must maintain the steady, unyielding pressure of your chosen mental heading, gently correcting the rudder whenever the winds of circumstance attempt to blow you off course. And finally, you must exercise the patience and the faith to outlast the delay of the physical world. You must govern your mind independently of your immediate environment, knowing that today's physical reality is merely the fading shadow of yesterday's thoughts. When you integrate these principles, well, then they cease to be mere concepts and become the very fabric of your daily existence. You will receive a reward that far exceeds any material gain. You will achieve absolute peace of mind. The greatest source of human suffering is the feeling of powerlessness, the terrifying belief that you are a cork bobbing on the ocean of chance, at the mercy of the economy, the opinions of others, or the random cruelty of fate. When you master your thoughts, that terror evaporates. It is replaced by a profound, unshakable tranquility. You realize that you never have to fear the future, because you are actively creating the future in this very moment. You do not need to manipulate people, and you do not need to force outcomes. You only need to manage the contents of your own consciousness. You step into the supreme dignity of self-determination. You realize that your mind is not a mirror reflecting the world. Your mind is a projector, casting your internal state onto the canvas of reality. The universe is entirely responsive to you. It is waiting with infinite patience and unlimited resources for your clear, unequivocal command. The limitations of your past are dead. The anxieties of your present are illusions. The only reality that matters is the thought you are holding right now. Guard it carefully, nurture it with feeling. Hold it with unyielding consistency, for in the silent, invisible space of your own mind, you are writing the history of your tomorrow.